I'm Stella, 32 years old, and I'm standing in my driveway with everything I own crammed into one suitcase. Victor just slammed the front door so hard the windows rattled, his final words still echoing in my head. "You never accomplished anything on your own." The neighbors are pretending not to stare from behind their perfectly manicured hedges. Because nothing says successful marriage like your husband throwing you out like yesterday's trash, right? Where are you watching from today? Drop your location in the comments below and hit that like and subscribe button if you've ever felt completely powerless in your own life. You'll definitely want to stick around for what happened next. The divorce papers are still warm from the printer, and my ex-husband made it crystal clear that I have exactly 30 minutes to get my things and get out. Funny how a man who couldn't even remember to put his dishes in the dishwasher suddenly became so efficient when it came to erasing me from his life. I guess some men are just naturally gifted at disposal. But let me back up and tell you how I ended up here, because this story doesn't start with me being kicked out like a defective appliance. It starts 3 years ago, when Victor and I were still playing house and pretending we had a marriage worth saving. We'd been trying to have a baby for 2 years. 2 long, heartbreaking years of negative pregnancy tests, doctor appointments, and Victor's increasingly nasty comments about my body not doing what it's supposed to do. Every month brought fresh disappointment, and with it, fresh ammunition for Victor's cruel mouth. "Maybe you're just defective," he'd say after another negative test, like I was a car that wouldn't start. "My first girlfriend got pregnant accidentally. Maybe the problem is obvious." Oh, the irony. Spoiler alert for those of you keeping score at home. The problem was never obvious to Victor because it required him to look in a mirror. The thing about emotional abuse is that it doesn't start with a slap. It starts with small cuts to your self-esteem, tiny paper cuts that eventually bleed you dry. Victor was an artist with words, and my confidence was his canvas. Too bad he never figured out that masterpieces are supposed to be beautiful. I finally got tired of being his personal punching bag disguised as a wife. 6 months ago, I scheduled my own fertility tests behind Victor's back. I needed to know the truth, even if he refused to face it. The results came back perfect. My reproductive system was functioning exactly as it should, which meant the problem wasn't me. Shocking, I know. When I suggested Victor get tested too, he exploded. "I'm not the one who can't get pregnant," he screamed. "Don't try to make this my fault because you're broken." But I wasn't broken. And deep down, he knew it. Men like Victor always know the truth. They just prefer their version better. That's when the real cruelty began. Victor started treating me like I was defective goods he was stuck with. He'd make jokes about my faulty wiring in front of friends. He'd suggest I was probably infertile because I was too stressed or too negative. Every conversation became a weapon to convince me that I was the problem in our marriage. The final straw came last week when I found fertility clinic brochures hidden in his desk drawer. Not for couples counseling or joint treatment. Just for him. He was secretly having himself tested while publicly blaming me for our problems. Because apparently, hypocrisy is Victor's second language. When I confronted him about the brochures, he didn't even deny it. Instead, he looked me dead in the eye and said, "I need to know if I'm wasting my time with someone who can never give me what I want." That's when I filed for divorce. Because honestly, ladies, when your husband starts talking about you like a broken vending machine, it's time to find the exit. And that brings us back to today, with me standing in this driveway, homeless and supposedly worthless. Victor thinks he's won. He thinks he's finally gotten rid of the defective wife who was holding him back from his perfect life. What he doesn't know is that he just set me free. And trust me, that's going to be the most expensive mistake of his life. The hardest part about having your life implode isn't the big dramatic moments. It's the small practical realities, like realizing you don't have anywhere to sleep tonight, or that your phone plan was in your ex-husband's name and just got canceled. Because nothing says I love you like cutting off someone's communication the same day you destroy their life. I'm sitting in my car in the parking lot of a 24-hour diner, trying to figure out my next move. My bank account has exactly $312, which might cover a motel for a few nights if I eat nothing but ramen. Victor made sure to clean out our joint account before serving me papers. Such a thoughtful man, really thinking ahead about my comfort and well-being. My mom died when I was 19, and my dad passed 5 years ago. No siblings, no close relatives who could take me in. Victor always said family just complicates things anyway. Now I'm wondering if he isolated me on purpose, or if I let it happen because I was too busy trying to be the perfect wife. Spoiler alert, there's no such thing as perfect enough for a man who's determined to find fault. The waitress keeps glancing at me through the window. I've been nursing the same cup of coffee for 2 hours, and I probably look like someone who's having a mental breakdown. Which, let's be honest, I kind of am. But at least I'm having it with style, right? That's when I remember the card. My dad gave it to me during my last visit before he died. I was 27, still optimistic about my marriage, still believing Victor when he said we were building something beautiful together, because I was young and stupid and thought love meant accepting crumbs. Dad pulled me aside after dinner and pressed a plastic card into my hand. "Keep this safe, Stella," he said, his eyes unusually serious. "Don't tell anyone about it, not even Victor. If life ever gets really hard, if you ever feel like you have nowhere to turn, this might help you get back on your feet." At the time, I thought it was sweet but unnecessary. A bank card with maybe a few $1,000s, a father's way of making sure his daughter had a safety net. I stuck it in my wallet and honestly forgot about it for years. Because when you're busy being the perfect wife, you don't think about needing an escape plan. Now I pull it out with shaking hands. It's a simple black card with a bank logo I don't recognize. No name on it, just numbers. It looks old, like something from another era when banks still believed in customer privacy, and when fathers apparently had more foresight than their daughters about who they were marrying. I've got nothing left to lose and everything to gain. The nearest branch of First National Trust is only 10 minutes away. They're open until 6 on weekdays. The drive feels longer than it should. My hands are sweating as I grip the steering wheel, and I keep checking the rearview mirror like Victor might be following me. Which is ridiculous, since he made it very clear he never wants to see me again. Funny how rejection stings even when it comes from someone you're glad to be rid of. The bank is one of those old-fashioned buildings with marble columns and brass fixtures. It screams old money and serious business. I feel underdressed in my jeans and hastily packed sweater, but I push through the heavy doors anyway. Because sometimes you have to fake confidence until you remember what the real thing feels like. The lobby is mostly empty at 4:30 on a Tuesday afternoon. A few elderly customers conducting quiet business. A young mother trying to manage paperwork while her toddler examines the carpet. Normal people living normal lives. Probably none of them homeless and desperate. Lucky them. I approach the customer service desk where a woman in her 50s greets me with professional politeness. "How can I help you today?" "I'd like to check the balance on this account," I say, sliding the card across the marble counter. My voice sounds steadier than I feel, which is a minor miracle considering my life fell apart 6 hours ago. She takes the card and her expression changes slightly as she examines it. "This is one of our legacy accounts. Let me get a manager for you." "A manager? For a balance check?" That seems excessive, but I nod and take a seat in one of the leather chairs they've positioned near the windows. Maybe the card is so old their system can't read it properly. Or maybe it's completely worthless and they're trying to figure out how to break it to me gently. 5 minutes pass, then 10. I'm starting to wonder if there's a problem when a tall man in an expensive suit approaches me. His face is pale, almost like he's seen a ghost. Or maybe like he's about to deliver news that's going to change someone's life forever. I'm sorry, what was your name?" "Stella." "What was your—" "Stella Morrison." "Ms. Morrison? I'm David Chen, the branch manager. Could you please come with me to my office? We need to discuss your account privately." The way he says privately makes my stomach flip. Either this card is completely worthless, or something is very, very wrong. Or maybe, just maybe, something is about to go very, very right. David Chen's office is all dark wood and leather, with windows overlooking the street where my beat-up Honda sits between 2 luxury sedans, like a homeless person at a country club. He gestures for me to sit in the chair across from his desk, then settles behind his computer screen with the careful movements of someone handling explosives. "Ms. Morrison?" he begins, his voice carefully controlled. "I need to verify your identity before we proceed. Do you have a driver's license or other identification?" I hand over my license, watching his face as he compares it to something on his screen. His eyebrows raise slightly and he types something with quick, precise movements. Like he's confirming something he can't quite believe. "Ms. Morrison," he says finally, turning his monitor so I can see the screen. "I think you need to see this." What I see doesn't make sense at first. Numbers. Lots of numbers. More numbers than I've ever seen in one place, especially attached to anything with my name on it. For a moment, I think there's been some kind of computer error. Then I realize what I'm looking at, and the room starts spinning. $47,322,816.63. Because apparently, when you're obscenely wealthy, you still keep track of the pennies. "I'm sorry," I say, my voice barely above a whisper. "There must be some mistake. This can't be right." David Chen clears his throat and pulls up another screen. "The account was established in your name 23 years ago by Robert Morrison, your father. He made regular deposits over the years, and the investments have performed exceptionally well. My father. My dad, who drove a 15-year-old pickup truck and clipped coupons religiously, somehow accumulated $47 million and put it all in my name. While I was busy being told I was worthless by a man who probably has less money in his checking account than I apparently spend on bank fees. But how? Dad worked at the hardware store. He lived in that tiny apartment above the shop. He always worried about money. According to our records, Mr. Morrison owned several properties around town that he rented out quietly. He also made some very smart investments in technology companies back in the 80s and 90s. Apple, Microsoft, Amazon when they were still small. He lived modestly but invested wisely. So let me get this straight. While Victor was busy convincing me I was a financial burden who contributed nothing to our marriage, my dad was quietly building a fortune that could probably buy Victor's business 10 times over. The irony is so thick you could cut it with a knife. Why didn't he tell me? There's a note in the file, David says, clicking to another document. He wrote instructions that you were only to be informed about the account if you came in personally with the card, and only if you appeared to be in genuine need. He wanted to make sure you could build your own life first, without relying on inherited wealth. My eyes fill with tears as I read Dad's handwritten note on the screen. My daughter is strong and capable, but if she's reading this, it means life has knocked her down, and she needs help getting back up. This money isn't meant to make her lazy or entitled. It's meant to give her the freedom to be herself without compromising her values for survival. Use it wisely, Stella. You deserve a life where you don't have to settle for less than your worth. Oh, Dad, I whisper, pressing my hand to my mouth as the tears start falling. You sneaky, wonderful man. Have you ever felt like your whole life was about to change in ways you never imagined? Drop a comment below if you've ever discovered something that completely shifted your perspective on everything. David discreetly pushes a box of tissues across his desk. The account has been managed by our investment team according to your father's instructions. Very conservative, steady growth. The balance has nearly tripled since he passed away. I think about Victor screaming at me this morning, telling me I never accomplished anything on my own. About his cruel comments about my worth, my body, my supposed failures. About the way he cleaned out our account and threw me out like garbage. If only he knew that the worthless wife he just discarded is now worth more than he'll make in 10 lifetimes. Actually, scratch that. I hope he never finds out. The look on his face would probably be worth another $47 million. What happens now? I ask, wiping my eyes. Now you decide what you want to do. The money is yours, has always been yours. We can set up new accounts, investment strategies, whatever you need, or you can leave it here and just access what you need for immediate expenses. Immediate expenses. Like not being homeless. Like hiring a lawyer who specializes in making awful ex-husbands regret their life choices. I need a hotel room for tonight, I say, feeling surreal saying it. And probably a good lawyer. David smiles for the first time since I walked in. I think we can arrange both of those things. Would you like me to recommend some local attorneys who specialize in divorce proceedings? Actually, I say, thinking of Victor's smug face as he kicked me out, I want someone who specializes in making cheating husbands regret their life choices. David's smile widens. I know exactly who to call. 2 hours later, I'm sitting in the presidential suite of the Grandview Hotel, surrounded by room service menus and legal documents. The suite costs more per night than I used to make in a month, but right now it feels like the perfect place to plan my new life. And maybe my revenge. Not that I'm petty or anything. The law office of Patricia Hendricks looks like something out of a movie about powerful women destroying their enemies with paperwork and perfect manicures. Glass walls, modern art, and a reception area that probably costs more than most people's cars. The receptionist offers me Italian sparkling water and asks if I'd prefer the conference room or Ms. Hendricks's private office. I've never been asked where I'd prefer to meet with a lawyer before. I'm starting to understand how money changes everything, even simple conversations. Turns out when you can actually pay for premium service, people treat you like you matter. Who knew? Patricia Hendricks is exactly what I hoped for. Sharp, elegant, and radiating the kind of confidence that suggests she's never lost a case she actually wanted to win. Her handshake is firm. Her smile is predatory, and her first question makes me like her immediately. How badly do you want to make your ex-husband regret his life choices? Scale of 1 to 10? I settle into the leather chair across from her desk. About a 15. She laughs, a sound that somehow manages to be both warm and terrifying. I like you already. David Chen filled me in on the basics, but I want to hear everything directly from you. Start from the beginning and don't leave out any details, especially the ugly ones. So I tell her about the fertility issues, the emotional abuse, The way Victor systematically eroded my self-confidence while refusing to consider that he might be the problem. About finding the clinic brochures and realizing he'd been lying to me for months. About this morning's grand finale when he threw me out with nothing but a suitcase. Patricia takes notes on a yellow legal pad, occasionally asking clarifying questions. Her expression gets more dangerous as the story unfolds. I'm pretty sure she's mentally calculating how many different ways she can legally destroy Victor's life. Did you sign a prenuptial agreement? Victor insisted on it, said it was just smart business, and that if I really loved him, I wouldn't mind signing. I roll my eyes, because nothing says romance like making your fiancé sign away her rights to marital assets. Do you have a copy? I pull it out of my folder. Victor's lawyer drew it up. I was too in love and too trusting to get my own representation. Patricia reads through it quickly, her eyebrows rising with each page. This is incredibly one-sided, almost laughably so. Did you understand what you were signing? Victor explained it as protecting both of us equally. I believed him. I pause. In my defense, I was young and stupid and thought being a good wife meant trusting your husband completely. Live and learn, right? Stella, this prenup basically says that in case of divorce, you get nothing except whatever personal items you brought into the marriage. Meanwhile, Victor keeps all assets, including the house, the cars, his business, everything. I know. That's why I left with just my clothes. Patricia sets down the papers and leans back in her chair. Here's the thing about prenuptial agreements. They can be challenged if they're unconscionable, or if one party didn't have proper legal representation or full disclosure of assets. What do you mean? I mean your husband's lawyer did him a disservice by making this so obviously unfair. A good attorney would have given you something, made it look equitable. This just looks like exploitation. She pulls out her phone and starts typing. I'm going to have my investigator look into Victor's finances. If he hid assets or misrepresented his worth when you signed this, we can get the whole thing thrown out. Even if we can't, it doesn't matter now, right? I mean, I have my own money. Patricia smiles that predatory smile again. Oh, honey, this isn't about the money. This is about justice. Your husband emotionally abused you for years, then threw you out like garbage while keeping everything you helped him build during your marriage. The law has opinions about that kind of behavior. And suddenly, I understand why David recommended her. Patricia Hendricks doesn't just practice law, she weaponizes it. Dr. Sarah Martinez has the kind of warm, confident energy that makes you trust her immediately. Her office feels more like a living room than a medical facility, with soft lighting and comfortable chairs that don't make you feel like a patient. It's a refreshing change from the fertility doctor Victor chose, who treated me like a malfunctioning appliance that needed fixing. Tell me about your goals, she says, settling across from me with a cup of tea. What does your ideal family look like? It's been so long since anyone asked what I wanted that I have to think for a moment. I've always wanted to be a mother. Victor and I tried for 2 years, but we had compatibility issues. Meaning? Meaning my fertility tests were perfect, but he refused to get tested. Then spent 2 years blaming me for our inability to conceive. I pause. Turns out the only thing Victor was capable of producing consistently was excuses. Dr. Martinez nods like she's heard this story before. Unfortunately, that's more common than you'd think. Some men struggle with the idea that fertility issues could be related to them. Well, now it's not his decision anymore. And frankly, I'm grateful I never had children with him. Can you imagine being tied to that level of toxicity forever? Good for you. Independence is an excellent foundation for making family planning decisions. Now, let's talk about your options. She explains the process of artificial insemination, IVF, and donor selection. The timeline, the success rates, the emotional considerations. Everything Victor refused to discuss because it wounded his pride to consider alternatives. The process can take several months, Dr. Martinez explains. We'll need to run some updated tests, establish your baseline hormone levels, and then begin preparing your body for the procedure. Are you emotionally ready for this journey? Am I ready? I think about my empty hotel suite, my divorce proceedings, the complete upheaval of everything I thought my life would be. Honestly, my life is chaos right now. But I'm 32, I'm financially stable, and I've never been more certain about what I want. If I wait for the perfect circumstances, I might wait forever. That's the best answer I could hope for. Women who know their own minds make the best mothers. She walks me through the initial steps: blood work, psychological evaluation, genetic counseling. We schedule everything for the next 2 weeks. One more thing, she says as I'm gathering my purse. I recommend you consider joining our support group for single women pursuing fertility treatment. It can be incredibly helpful to connect with others going through similar journeys. I'll think about it. The group meets Thursday evenings. Very informal, just women supporting women through a process that can be emotionally challenging. That evening, I decide to try the hotel restaurant instead of hiding in my room with room service. I need to start rebuilding my social skills, and eating alone in public seems like a good place to start. Plus, I'm curious to see if being obviously wealthy changes how I'm treated. Spoiler alert, it absolutely does. The restaurant is elegant but not pretentious, filled with business travelers and local couples enjoying quiet dinners. I request a table by the windows and order the salmon without checking the price first. Another small act of rebellion against my old life, where Victor insisted we always choose the most economical option, because God forbid we spend money on anything that might bring me pleasure. Excuse me, are you dining alone? I look up to find a man about my age standing beside my table. He's attractive in an understated way. Dark hair, kind eyes, expensive but not flashy clothing, the kind of man who looks like he's never had to raise his voice to get what he wants. Yes, I am, I say, not sure if this is a pickup attempt or something else. I'm sorry to bother you, but I couldn't help noticing you looked a little lost in thought. I'm dining alone too, and I hate eating by myself. Would you mind if I joined you? I promise I'm not trying to be creepy. I'm actually a doctor at the medical center across the street, and I've had a long day of delivering difficult news to families. Sometimes it's nice to have a normal conversation with someone who isn't in crisis. Well, joke's on him there. I'm definitely in crisis, just not the medical kind. There's something honest about his approach that disarms me. No smooth lines, no false charm, just a tired professional looking for human connection. I'm Stella, I say, gesturing to the empty chair across from me. Matteo. Dr. Matteo Rossi. And thank you. I know it's unconventional to invite yourself to someone's table. Unconventional has been the theme of my week, I say. What kind of doctor? Cardiology. I spend my days fixing hearts, which is ironic since I'm terrible at managing my own personal life. Join the club. I just got divorced, and I'm currently living in a hotel while I figure out what comes next. That sounds like a story. It is. Not a particularly pleasant one, but definitely a story with some interesting plot twists. Talking to Matteo feels surprisingly natural, like reconnecting with an old friend rather than making conversation with a stranger. He listens without judgment as I give him the abbreviated version of my marriage's collapse. The fertility struggles, the emotional abuse, the dramatic exit. I'm sorry you went through that, he says when I finish. No one should have to endure years of being told they're inadequate, especially by someone who's supposed to love them. The worst part is how long I believed him. How I let him convince me that everything wrong with our relationship was my fault. I pause. Though I have to admit there's something deeply satisfying about proving him wrong in such a spectacular fashion. Gaslighting is insidious. It's designed to make you question your own reality. Matteo refills our wine glasses. In my experience, people who need to tear others down usually do it because they can't face their own shortcomings. Spoken like someone who's been through his own relationship drama. He laughs ruefully. Guilty. Though in my case, it was more about choosing career over relationship repeatedly, until I looked up one day and realized I was 41 and married to my work. 41 and single? In my experience, that usually means either commitment issues or impossible standards. Probably both. I've always been better at diagnosing other people's problems than fixing my own. He pauses, studying my face in the candlelight. Can I ask you something personal? After everything I just told you? Go ahead. What's next for you? I mean, beyond the divorce proceedings and hotel living. I consider how much to share. The fertility treatments, the massive inheritance, the complete reconstruction of my identity. It's a lot to dump on someone I just met. But there's something about Matteo's genuine interest that makes me want to be honest. I'm pursuing some medical treatments that I couldn't access during my marriage. My ex-husband had very strong opinions about what we should and shouldn't do regarding family planning. Fertility treatments? Among other things. I've always wanted to be a mother, and I'm tired of waiting for someone else's permission to pursue my dreams. Matteo nods approvingly. Good for you. Too many women put their lives on hold waiting for the right circumstances or the right partner. Sometimes the right time is right now, regardless of what anyone else thinks. That's exactly how I feel. I'm 32, I'm financially stable, and I finally have the freedom to make my own choices. Financially stable is good. Some of the fertility treatments can be expensive, and insurance doesn't always cover everything. If only he knew how financially stable I actually am. But that's a conversation for another time, if there is another time. What about you? I ask, redirecting the conversation. Any plans to break your pattern of choosing work over relationships? Actually, yes. I've been thinking a lot about work-life balance lately. My practice is well established, I have excellent partners who can cover for me, and I'm tired of coming home to an empty house every night. So you're ready to start dating seriously? I'm ready to start living seriously. Dating is just part of that. The waiter brings our dessert. We've somehow progressed to sharing tiramisu without discussing it, and Matteo tells me about his practice, his family back in Italy, his plans to cut back his hours and actually take vacations. I have a villa in Tuscany that I inherited from my grandmother, he says. I've owned it for 8 years and visited exactly twice. That seems like a waste of a beautiful property and a tragic waste of life. Tuscany sounds amazing. I've never been to Italy. You should go, especially if you're in a life rebuilding phase. There's something about that landscape that puts everything in perspective. By the time we finish dinner, it's nearly 10 o'clock. The restaurant is emptying out, and I'm reluctant to end the conversation. It's been months since I've talked to someone who made me feel interesting and valued, rather than defective and burdensome. This was exactly what I needed tonight, I tell him as we wait for the check. Thank you for rescuing me from eating alone and overthinking my life. Thank you for letting a stranger join your table. I was dreading another night of takeout in my office. Can I ask you something? He says as he signs the receipt. Sure. Would you like to have coffee sometime? I know you're going through a lot of changes right now, and I'm not trying to complicate your life, but I'd like to see you again. What do you think will happen next? Will Stella be ready to open her heart again so soon after her divorce? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. The question catches me off guard, not because I don't want to see him again, but because I haven't thought about dating since my marriage ended 5 days ago. Is it too soon? Too complicated? Too risky? Then I remember my dad's note. You deserve a life where you don't have to settle for less than your worth. I'd like that, I say. But I should warn you, my life is pretty unpredictable right now. Mine too. Maybe we can be unpredictable together. As we walk through the hotel lobby toward the elevators, I catch our reflection in the mirrored walls. We look like two people who belong together, confident, successful, comfortable in each other's company. It's a far cry from the anxious, diminished woman who left Victor's house this morning. And for the first time in years, I'm actually excited about what tomorrow might bring. 3 weeks into my fertility treatments, I'm sitting in Dr. Martinez's office getting my hormone levels checked when she mentions something that makes me reconsider everything. Your numbers are looking excellent, Stella. Better than excellent, actually. You're responding beautifully to the medications. That's good news, right? Very good news. In fact, I'd say your body is in optimal condition for conception. Have you been taking the prenatal vitamins I recommended? Every day, along with the hormone injections and the dietary changes. I'm following the protocol exactly. I pause. It's nice to finally have a doctor who treats my body like it's capable of working properly instead of like it's a broken machine. Doctor. Martinez makes a note in my chart. I'm impressed with your commitment. Some patients struggle with the lifestyle adjustments, but you've embraced everything we've discussed. I told you, I've never been more certain about what I want. Plus, after years of being told I was defective, it's satisfying to discover I'm actually in prime reproductive condition. It shows. Your dedication is going to serve you well when we move to the next phase of treatment. The next phase. We're still weeks away from the actual insemination procedure, but knowing we're making progress feels incredible. After years of Victor telling me my body was broken, having a doctor celebrate how well everything is functioning feels like vindication. My phone buzzes with a text from Matteo. Coffee later? I have news to share. We've been seeing each other regularly for the past few weeks. Casual dinners, long walks, easy conversations that make me remember what it feels like to enjoy someone's company without constantly walking on eggshells. He knows about the fertility treatments, supports my decision completely, and never makes me feel like I need to choose between my goals and his presence in my life, which is refreshing, considering my last relationship required me to choose between my dreams and his ego on a daily basis. Good news or bad news? I text back. Definitely good. Meet me at that cafe near the park at 7. See you there. Dr. Martinez finishes my blood draw and schedules my next appointment. Everything is progressing beautifully. Keep doing exactly what you're doing. That evening, I find Matteo already waiting at our usual corner table, 2 coffee cups in front of him and an expression I can't quite read. You look different, I say, settling into the chair across from him. Happy but nervous? I had a conversation with my partners today about reducing my patient load. And they're not just supportive, they're encouraging it. Turns out they've been worried I was headed for burnout. They want me to take a real sabbatical. Maybe travel to Italy, spend time at the villa. This is good news, but I can sense there's more to the story. There's a but coming, isn't there? Not a but exactly. More like a proposition. He reaches across the table and takes my hand, his thumb tracing gentle circles on my palm. Stella, I know we've only known each other for a few weeks, and I know you're going through massive life changes right now, but I can't ignore how I feel about you. My heart starts beating faster. How do you feel about me? Like I've been waiting my whole life to meet someone who makes me want to be a better version of myself. Like every relationship before this was practice for the real thing. The words hang in the air between us. Honest and vulnerable and slightly terrifying. And completely different from anything Victor ever said to me, which usually involved what I needed to change about myself to make him happy. Mateo, I'm not asking you to make any decisions right now. I'm not trying to complicate your fertility journey or pressure you into anything you're not ready for. I just want you to know that whatever happens, however this unfolds, I'm here. Completely, genuinely here. I look into his eyes and see something I never had with Victor. Unconditional support mixed with genuine respect for my autonomy. Mateo isn't trying to fix me or change my plans. He's offering to be part of whatever I'm building. Can I ask you something? I say. Anything. Are you prepared for the possibility that I might get pregnant through artificial insemination while we're dating? Because that's still my plan, regardless of what happens between us. Stella, I became a doctor because I believe in helping people create the families they want. Why would I have a problem with the woman I'm falling for doing exactly that? Falling for. He said he's falling for me. And unlike Victor, who fell for the idea of who he wanted me to be, Mateo seems to be falling for who I actually am. What if the timing gets complicated? What if I get pregnant and you decide this isn't what you signed up for? Then I'd be an idiot who doesn't deserve you. He squeezes my hand. I'm not Victor. I don't need to control your choices to feel secure in our relationship. The relief that washes over me is so intense I almost start crying right there in the calf. I think I'm falling for you too. Good, he says, grinning. Because I was really hoping this wasn't a one-sided situation. We talk until the calf closes, making plans for a weekend trip to his cabin in the mountains, discussing his sabbatical timeline, sharing dreams about the future that don't require either of us to compromise our individual goals. Walking back to my hotel, I realize this is what a healthy relationship feels like. No power struggles, no emotional manipulation, no requirement to make myself smaller to accommodate someone else's insecurities. Just two people choosing to build something together while remaining completely themselves. What a novel concept. 4 months into dating Mateo and 6 weeks into my fertility treatments, something unexpected happens. We're spending the weekend at his cabin in the mountains, finally ready to take our relationship to the next level, when nature decides to have a sense of humor. 2 weeks after our first night together. A perfect evening of connection and intimacy that was everything my marriage wasn't. I wake up feeling nauseous for the 3rd morning in a row. My period is 5 days late, and I can't stand the smell of coffee, which is practically grounds for a medical emergency in my world. At first, I assume it's a side effect from the hormone medications. Dr. Martinez warned me that the treatments could cause irregular cycles and various physical symptoms. But when the nausea persists and I realize I'm having food aversions, a different possibility occurs to me. Could I be pregnant naturally? From Mateo? The irony would be almost comical if it weren't so life-changing. After 2 years of trying with Victor, months of fertility treatments, and careful medical intervention, my body might have decided to conceive on its own with a man who actually loves and respects me, because apparently my reproductive system has excellent taste in partners. I drive to the pharmacy feeling surreal, like I'm watching someone else's life unfold. 3 different pregnancy tests go into my basket, along with prenatal vitamins and a bottle of ginger tea for the nausea. Back in my hotel suite, I stare at the pregnancy test boxes for 10 minutes before working up the courage to open one. The instructions seem impossibly simple for something that could change my entire future. 2 minutes later, I'm staring at 2 pink lines. Pregnant. I'm actually pregnant. Naturally. With Mateo's baby. My hands shake as I take the 2nd test, then the 3rd. All positive. All clearly, definitively positive. I sit on the bathroom floor, overwhelmed by emotions I can't name. Joy, terror, disbelief, and something that feels like cosmic justice all tangled together. After years of Victor telling me I was broken, my body has created life with a man who actually deserves to be a father. What do you think will happen next? Will Mateo be ready for this surprise? Leave your thoughts in the comments below and don't forget to subscribe for more. My first instinct is to call Mateo, but something stops me. This is my moment, my miracle, my vindication. Before I share it with anyone else, I need to fully absorb what it means. Plus, I want to see his face when I tell him, not hear his voice over the phone. I'm going to be a mother. Not through artificial insemination, not through months more of medical intervention, but naturally, spontaneously, with a man I'm falling in love with. After everything Victor put me through, this feels like the universe's way of saying, actually, there was never anything wrong with you. An hour later, I'm in Dr. Martinez's office, where she confirms what the home tests already told me. Congratulations, Stella. You're about 6 weeks pregnant, and everything looks perfect. But how? I mean, the timing. Dr. Martinez reviews my chart carefully. Sometimes when women start fertility treatments, the lifestyle changes and reduced stress can actually improve natural conception rates. Your body was getting healthier, your hormone levels were optimizing, and nature took its course. So all those treatments helped, even though I conceived naturally? Exactly. Plus, you're in a much better emotional state than when you started this journey. Stress can absolutely impact fertility. You've removed a toxic relationship, found financial security, and started a healthy new relationship. Your body is responding to that positive change. The ultimate irony, while Victor was insisting I was broken, I was actually just in the wrong environment to thrive, like trying to grow flowers in toxic soil and then wondering why they won't bloom. What happens now? I ask. Do I need to stop the fertility medications? Immediately. We'll transition you to a standard prenatal care routine. This is actually the best possible outcome. Natural conception with a healthy mother and optimal conditions for fetal development. That evening, I meet Matteo for dinner at his favorite Italian restaurant. He can tell something is different the moment I walk in. You look radiant, he says, standing to kiss my cheek. Like you're glowing from the inside. Funny you should mention that. I sit down, trying to figure out how to share news that will change everything between us. I have something to tell you. His expression grows serious. Good news or bad news? That depends on your perspective. I take a deep breath. I'm pregnant. Matteo's face goes through a series of emotions. Surprise, confusion, then something that looks like wonder. Pregnant? But I thought you were still in the treatment phase. Apparently my body had other plans. Natural conception about 6 weeks along. With you. With me? His smile spreads slowly across his face like sunrise. We're going to have a baby? If you want to. I mean, I know this wasn't planned, and we haven't been together that long. He reaches across the table and takes both my hands. Stella, this is incredible. You're going to be an amazing mother, and I get to be part of this journey from the beginning. You're not freaking out? Most men would run screaming from this situation. Most men aren't in love with you. There it is again. That word that Victor used as a weapon, but Matteo uses like a gift. You're in love with me? Completely. Head over heels, can't imagine my future without you in it. In love with you. His smile is radiant. And now we're having a baby together, which makes this even more amazing. I start crying right there in the restaurant, but they're tears of relief and joy and overwhelming gratitude. After years of being told I was defective, I'm sitting here pregnant, loved, and financially secure with a man who's already talking about our future like it's the best thing that could happen to him. Are you sure about this? Because once this baby comes, there's no going back. You'd be signing up for midnight feedings and diaper changes and all the chaos that comes with raising a child. I'd be signing up for building a life with the woman I love and raising our child together. That sounds like the best possible future I could imagine. 3 months pregnant and finally starting to show. I'm having lunch with Matteo at our favorite outdoor cafe when my phone rings with a number I don't recognize. My first instinct is to let it go to voicemail, but something makes me answer. Probably a mistake. Stella, it's Victor. My entire body tenses at the sound of his voice. Matteo notices immediately, raising an eyebrow in concern and reaching across the table to touch my arm. How did you get this number? I have my ways. We need to talk. No, we really don't. My lawyer handles all communication now. Remember, that's what restraining orders are for. This isn't about the divorce. This is about other things. Things I recently found out about you. My blood runs cold. Somehow, Victor has discovered the inheritance. I motion to Matteo that it's Victor, and his expression immediately darkens. I don't know what you think you found out, but $47 million, Stella. Your father left you $47 million and you never told me. There it is. The real reason for this call. Not love, not reconciliation, not even basic human decency. Money. Because of course it is. What I inherited from my father is none of your business. We're divorced, remember? You made that very clear when you threw me out like yesterday's garbage. But we were still married when you found out about it. That makes it community property. I actually laugh out loud at the audacity. Victor, You literally cleaned out our joint account and kicked me out with one suitcase while telling me I'd never accomplish anything on my own. You don't get to claim community property after that kind of behavior. Stella, please, can we meet somewhere and talk about this reasonably? I think there's been a huge misunderstanding between us. The audacity is breathtaking. 3 months ago, this man told me I was worthless and would never amount to anything. Now he's discovered I'm worth more than he'll make in multiple lifetimes, and suddenly there's been a misunderstanding. The only misunderstanding is him thinking I'm still the same doormat who used to tolerate his abuse. The only misunderstanding is you thinking you have any claim to my life or my money. I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about us, about our marriage. Maybe we gave up too quickly? Mateo is watching this conversation with increasing alarm. I put my hand over his and mouth, "I'm okay," while trying not to laugh at Victor's transparent desperation. Victor, let me be very clear. There is no us. There is no marriage worth saving. You made your feelings about me perfectly clear when you blamed me for our fertility issues and threw me out with one suitcase. I was angry and hurt. People say things they don't mean when they're emotional. You said those things for 2 years, Victor. Consistently, deliberately. That wasn't emotion. That was who you really are. Stella, I know I made mistakes, but we can work through this. We loved each other once. You loved having someone to blame for your problems. I loved who I thought you were before I realized how cruel you actually are. Just meet me for coffee, one conversation. If you still want to proceed with the divorce after that, I'll accept it. The answer is no. Don't call this number again. I hang up and immediately block his number, my hands shaking with anger and adrenaline. You okay? Mateo asks gently, his hand still covering mine. He wants to reconcile now that he knows about my inheritance. 3 months ago, I was worthless and defective. Now suddenly our marriage is worth saving. I shake my head. The man has absolutely no shame. How did he find out about the money? Good question. I've been very careful about who knows. Then it hits me. Patricia mentioned he hired a private investigator during the divorce proceedings. He must have had me followed. He's been having you stalked? Apparently. Which explains how he got my new phone number too. I feel a chill of violation. God, Mateo, what if he knows about you? About the pregnancy? Mateo's jaw tightens. If he's been watching you, he probably knows everything. As if on cue, my phone buzzes with a text from a different number. Congratulations on your new relationship. And the pregnancy. We really need to talk. The violation feels like a physical blow. He's been having me followed, watched, investigated like I'm a criminal instead of his ex-wife. And now he knows about the most private aspects of my new life. That's it, I say, showing Mateo the text. I'm calling Patricia right now. Patricia answers on the first ring, and when I explain what's happening, her voice turns ice cold. Forward me all those messages immediately. Having you stalked by a private investigator crosses several legal lines. This isn't just harassment anymore. It's criminal stalking. What can we do? I'm filing for an emergency restraining order extension and pursuing criminal charges. This behavior is escalating and we need to shut it down before it gets worse. After I hang up, Mateo pulls me close. Hey, look at me. We're not going to let Victor's desperation ruin our happiness. But what if he tries to cause problems with the pregnancy? What if he claims some kind of rights? He has no rights to anything involving us or our baby. You're divorced, you're with me, and this is our family. He could still make our lives difficult. He could try. But Stella, look around. Mateo gestures to our life, the beautiful restaurant, our obvious happiness, my growing belly. We're building something incredible here. Victor is stuck in the past, trying to reclaim something that was never actually his. We're moving forward. That evening, as we're getting ready for bed in Mateo's apartment, which has become more home to me than anywhere I've ever lived, I rest my hand on my growing belly and think about the future we're creating. In 3 months, I'll give birth to our child. I'll be married to a man who loves me unconditionally, living in a home filled with respect and joy instead of manipulation and cruelty. Victor can scheme and stalk and threaten all he wants. I've already moved on to a life he'll never be part of. At 5 months pregnant, with a round belly that makes me waddle slightly and a glow that everyone comments on, I'm in the final stages of planning my wedding to Mateo when Patricia calls with news that makes my day. The criminal stalking charges against Victor were filed this morning, she says, sounding positively gleeful. The judge was not impressed with his behavior. Emergency restraining order granted. And if he comes within 500 feet of you, Mateo, or any of your known associates, he goes to jail. What about the private investigator? Fired, apparently. Victor can't afford to pay him anymore. Turns out when you're not married to an heiress, legal fees add up quickly. I sink into the chair in what will soon be the baby's nursery, trying to process the relief. So it's really over? He can't contact us anymore? Legally, he's now a stranger to you with no rights to any aspect of your life. The divorce is final, the financial settlement is complete, and he has no claim to your inheritance, your pregnancy, or your future. After I hang up, I sit in the nursery for a long time, surrounded by carefully chosen furniture and soft colors. This room represents everything Victor tried to convince me I could never have: a family, security, unconditional love. Mateo finds me there an hour later, tears streaming down my face. Happy tears or sad tears? He asks, kneeling beside my chair and placing his hand on my belly, where our baby is currently practicing gymnastics. Happy tears? Relief tears? Victor legally can't contact us ever again? That's incredible news. How do you feel? Free. Completely, utterly free. I place my hand over his. And grateful. So incredibly grateful that he threw me out when he did. Best thing he ever did for both of us. That evening, we're having dinner at home. And it really is home now, full of our combined books and photos and the comfortable chaos of two people building a life together. When the doorbell rings, Mateo goes to answer it and returns with a puzzled expression. "Delivery for Mrs. Rossi-to-be," he says, holding a large floral arrangement. From Victor. My stomach clenches with familiar anxiety. Even though he has no legal power over me anymore, the thought that he's still trying to insert himself into my life makes me feel sick. What does the card say? Mateo reads it aloud. "Congratulations on your marriage and upcoming baby. I hope you find the happiness you deserve. I'm sorry for not being the man you needed. Victor." It's a gracious message, almost humble in its acknowledgement of his failures. For a brief moment, I almost feel sorry for him. Almost. Then I remember the 2 years of being told I was broken, the months of emotional manipulation, the way he threw me out with nothing and only wanted me back when he discovered my inheritance, the stalking, the harassment, the complete violation of my privacy. "Throw them away," I say firmly. "The flowers? They're actually quite beautiful. I don't care if they're made of gold. I don't want anything from Victor in our home, around our baby, or in our lives." I stand up, suddenly energized by anger. He doesn't get to buy his way back into my good graces with flowers and apologies after everything he put me through. Mateo nods and takes the arrangement outside to the trash. When he comes back, he sits beside me on the couch and pulls me into his arms. "You know what I think?" he says. "I think that's Victor's way of trying to maintain some connection to you, even if it's just the connection of sending gifts you'll receive. You think he'll keep trying? Maybe, but it doesn't matter. Because we'll keep rejecting every attempt. Eventually, he'll realize you've moved on completely, and hopefully he'll do the same. What if he doesn't? Then we'll deal with it together just like we handle everything else." The next morning, I wake up to find that someone has left a gift basket on our doorstep. Baby items, expensive ones. No card, but I know exactly who sent them. "He's testing the restraining order," Patricia says when I call her. Technically, having items delivered isn't direct contact, but it's still harassment. I'll file an addendum to make it clear that any gifts, deliveries, or third-party contact attempts are violations. 3 more deliveries arrive over the next week. Each time we refuse them and document everything for Patricia's files. "He's escalating because he's desperate," she explains during our final pre-wedding meeting. "Men like Victor don't handle rejection well, especially when it comes with financial consequences." "What kind of consequences? Remember that prenup he insisted on? The one that was supposed to leave you with nothing? Since we challenged it successfully, he's now required to pay you alimony and half of his business assets accumulated during the marriage. Even though I don't need his money? The law doesn't care whether you need it. It cares whether you're entitled to it. And you are. His deception about his assets makes the prenup invalid, which means you get half of everything he earned during your marriage. The irony is delicious. Victor tried to trap me in a marriage where I'd get nothing if I left. Instead, his deception means I'm entitled to a significant portion of his wealth, plus damages for emotional distress. Not that I need his money, but principle matters. He doesn't get to abuse me for years and then profit from it. How much are we talking about? About $2 million, total. His business has done well since you've been gone. Patricia smiles. Apparently, throwing out your wife can be quite motivating for some men. $2 million that will go directly to a trust fund for our baby. Victor's money, ironically enough, will help provide for the child he'll never know exists. Sometimes karma has a sense of humor. The wedding ceremony in Tuscany is everything I dreamed it would be. Intimate, joyful, and completely focused on celebrating love instead of impressing anyone else. Standing in the garden of Mateo's family villa, 7 months pregnant and glowing with happiness, surrounded by olive trees and the people who matter most to us. I feel like the luckiest woman alive. You look stunning, Dr. Martinez whispers as she adjusts my simple silk dress over my belly. Absolutely radiant. I feel like I'm floating, like this is too good to be real. It's real, and you deserve every bit of happiness you're experiencing. The ceremony is conducted by a local priest who speaks both Italian and English, creating a bilingual celebration that honors both our backgrounds. Matteo's family has welcomed me with open arms, treating my pregnancy like the gift it is rather than a complication. His mother cried when she first felt the baby kick, and his father has already started planning the nursery renovation at the villa for our future visits. When we exchange vows, Matteo includes promises not just to me, but to the baby I'm carrying. I promise to love this child as the miracle they are, to be the father they deserve, and to create with you a family built on respect, joy, and unconditional love. There isn't a dry eye in the garden, including mine. I promise to love you completely, I say through happy tears, and to build with you the kind of partnership where we both become better versions of ourselves. And I promise to never settle for less than we both deserve ever again. The reception is held under string lights in the villa's courtyard, with tables laden with food prepared by Matteo's aunts and cousins. It's warm, familial, everything my first wedding reception wasn't. No forced smiles, no family drama, no guests who are there out of obligation rather than genuine affection. During dinner, Patricia raises her glass for a toast. To Stella and Matteo, who prove that sometimes the best thing that can happen to you is losing what you thought you wanted so you can find what you actually need. To second chances, adds Dr. Martinez, and to women who choose themselves over settling for less than they deserve. As the evening winds down and guests begin retiring to their rooms, Matteo and I walk through the vineyard behind the villa. The night air is warm, filled with the scent of jasmine and the distant sound of laughter from the courtyard. Any regrets? He asks, his arm around my waist as we pause to look out over the valley. Only that it took me so long to find you. I pause, thinking, actually no. The timing was perfect. If we'd met while I was still married, while I was still trying to make that relationship work, I wouldn't have been ready for something real. You had to go through all that pain to become the woman I fell in love with. And you had to work yourself half to death to be ready to prioritize a relationship. I lean into him. Everything happened exactly when it was supposed to. My phone buzzes with a notification, and I almost ignore it until I see it's an email from an unknown address. Saw the wedding photos online. You look beautiful and happy. Congratulations on your new life. I hope you find everything you're looking for. Victor somehow found pictures of our ceremony and felt compelled to reach out one more time. The message is civil, almost gracious, but the underlying meaning is clear. He's still watching, still inserting himself into my life in whatever small ways he can manage. I show the message to Matteo, who frowns. How did he get pictures of the wedding? Social media, probably. Some of your cousins posted photos. Do you want to respond? I consider it for a moment, then delete the message without replying. No, he doesn't deserve a response, gracious or otherwise. The best thing I can do is continue ignoring him completely. Good. He's part of your past now. We are your future. As we walk back to the villa, hand in hand under the Tuscan stars, I realize Victor's message doesn't upset me the way his previous contacts did. It feels more like background noise, annoying but ultimately irrelevant to the life I'm actually living. Tomorrow, we fly back to the States to prepare for our baby's arrival. In 2 months, I'll give birth to the child I've always wanted, in a home filled with love and support, and the kind of security I never knew was possible. Victor can send all the messages he wants from whatever distance he's maintaining. He's no longer part of my story. He's just a cautionary tale about what happens when you mistake control for love. 8 months pregnant and practically glowing with the kind of happiness that comes from finally living the life you're meant to have, I'm in the nursery putting finishing touches on the room when my phone rings. It's Patricia, and she sounds almost gleeful. Stella, you need to hear this. The final financial settlement came through this morning, and it's even better than we hoped. How much better? Victor has to pay you $2.3 million in total damages and asset division. The judge was particularly harsh about his emotional abuse and stalking behavior. Plus, all legal fees are being paid by him. I sink into the rocking chair Matteo and I picked out last week, trying to process what this means. So it's really, truly over? Officially over? Completely over. Victor Morrison is legally a stranger to you, has no claim to any of your assets, and based on the restraining order, cannot contact you without facing criminal charges. What about any potential claims regarding the baby? No standing whatsoever. He has no legal relationship to you or your child. You're married to Matteo, the baby will be born into your current family, and Victor has no rights or claims to anything in your life. The relief is overwhelming. For months, I've been waiting for the other shoe to drop, for Victor to find some legal loophole that would allow him to continue tormenting me. Instead, the legal system has recognized what he did and held him accountable for it. After I hang up, I sit in the nursery for a long time, absorbing the magnitude of what's just happened. My old life is officially over. The woman who was married to Victor Morrison, who endured years of emotional abuse and manipulation, who believed she was worthless and defective, that woman no longer exists in any legal sense. In her place is someone I absolutely love, a woman who knows her own worth, who chose the right partner, who's about to become a mother on her own terms, and who has enough money to ensure her child never has to depend on anyone else for security. Matteo finds me there an hour later, tears streaming down my face as I fold tiny baby clothes. Happy tears or sad tears? He asks, kneeling beside the chair. Happy tears, relief tears. Victor is legally out of our lives forever, and he has to pay me over $2 million for the privilege of having treated me so badly. That's incredible news. What are you going to do with his money? Put it all in a trust fund for the baby. Victor's money will ironically end up supporting the family he'll never know he helped create. I touch my belly where our baby is currently doing what feels like interpretive dance. There's something beautifully poetic about that. Justice served with a side of irony. I like it. 3 days later, I go into labor at 38 weeks. Perfectly healthy timing that has Dr. Martinez smiling as she coaches me through contractions. You're doing beautifully, Stella. Just a few more pushes. Matteo is holding my hand, tears streaming down his face as he watches our daughter enter the world. Because she is our daughter. Completely and absolutely. The man who stands by you through pregnancy, who cries when your baby takes her first breath, who promises to love and protect both of you forever, that's the real father. She's perfect, Dr. Martinez announces as she places our daughter on my chest. Completely perfect. Looking down at this tiny, beautiful human who grew inside my body while I rebuilt my entire life, I feel a completion I never knew was possible. She has Matteo's dark hair and my green eyes, and her cry is strong and healthy and indignant at being forced from her warm cocoon into the bright world. Hello, baby girl, I whisper, stroking her cheek. Welcome to your beautiful life. Matteo leans down to kiss both of us. Welcome home, sweetheart. As the nurses clean and weigh our daughter, I think about the journey that brought us here. A year ago, I thought my life was ending when Victor threw me out. Instead, it was the beginning of everything I was meant to have. The baby's birth certificate lists Matteo as her father, which is exactly right. Biology doesn't make a family. Love does, choice does, showing up every day does. 6 months later, sitting in our garden while our daughter naps in the sunshine and Matteo reads nearby, I realize I never think about my old life anymore. It feels like something that happened to someone else. A story I heard once about a woman who didn't know her own worth. My phone buzzes with a notification, a news alert about Victor's business filing for bankruptcy. Apparently, the legal fees and settlement payments were too much for his company to absorb. I feel a brief moment of something that might be sympathy, then remember everything he put me through and go back to watching my daughter sleep. If this story resonated with you, make sure to like and subscribe for more stories about overcoming adversity and discovering your true strength. Remember, sometimes the worst thing that happens to you is actually the best thing in disguise. Sometimes you have to lose everything you thought you wanted to find everything you actually needed. Share this story with someone who needs to hear that they're stronger than they know, worth more than they've been told, and deserving of love that builds them up instead of tearing them down. Because everyone deserves a love story that ends with them becoming exactly who they were meant to be. And sometimes, just sometimes, the woman who gets thrown out like garbage ends up living like a queen. Not because of the money, though that doesn't hurt, but because she finally learned the difference between being wanted and being valued. Victor wanted to own me. Matteo values who I am. And that, ladies and gentlemen, makes all the difference in the world.